Travel is not an escape. Travel is a mirror. Now, this isn't something that's even really discussed because it's not even really a thing that people notice until they actually experience it or until they process what a vacation was like. I think that everything in life is a mirror, but especially travel. And the reason why is because when you travel, you're basically seeing yourself in the rawest form that you can. You have almost nothing to fall back on. Like, all you really have is yourself, what you know. You're essentially vulnerable. You're throwing yourself in the void. So you're gonna be in situations where you're gonna get tested. You know, you're going to meet people who, maybe these people you've never met before from this country. And now you're in a situation where you have to actually interact with them, even though that there's a language barrier. Or maybe, you're solo and you just went over a breakup with your girlfriend and you see a cute girl in the hostel or the hotel. And now it's your chance to talk to her. Or you go to a restaurant and people sit you beside another solo traveler in that restaurant because that's the only seat that's available. That happens all the time. The point is that these are minor things that occur while traveling, and it basically stretches you. It's like you're getting tested. It's purely about adaptation. And I feel like travel is the ultimate mirror because you see exactly where you're at, what you need to learn in order to grow. And you also see the mistakes or the things that you need to improve on in certain situations. For example, when I was in Bali, it's essentially a very spiritual place, right? And of course, when you look online, when you look at the aesthetics, it's essentially known as paradise. Well, while I was there for about a month, and it was quite chaotic for me. Like, I was actually figuring a lot of things out in my life at the time. My van just blew up in Australia. My home was gone. My life was gone. It was a very, spur in the moment type of thing to go there. And I was trying to figure out this remote income journey while I was there. And obviously I had limited savings and I didn't really have many options to fall back onto. So I had to go all in basically. Well, it was a very stressful period of my life and it showed that. Bali is a very spiritual place. So it's like a mirror. Everything is a mirror. They say if you're not meant to be in Bali, the island is going to kick you off. I was going through this process where my savings were running out. I was trying to make this remote income thing work. And my boss from before, who I made sales with, he wasn't paying me on time. He wasn't contacting me. So I was a little bit frightened. And I was using unhealthy coping mechanisms in order to cope with this. It was a really stressful time period. And I was going through all these moments where all these things were going wrong. I was catching some terrible food poisoning and I had to go to the hospital at 3 a.m. on the back of my hotel of my hotel manager's tuk-tuk in the middle of the night on pot roads. And I was half conscious. It was crazy. Stray dogs everywhere, 4 a.m. I couldn't even pay the bill on time because my card wasn't working and the hospital was on my ass. And I almost, couldn't pay the bill. Of course I did at the end. But there were so many things, there was a thunderstorm that caused a massive flood. This was in 2025 in September. You can look it up. It was a mess. I almost wasn't able to catch the airplane on the way out and my visa was almost expiring. Anyways, the point is that it was a reflection of my inner state. And it just comes back at you. What you feel is going to be projected on the world outside and it's going to come back. And I feel like travel is one of the rawest ways that you can discover this. If you really want to see your faulty points, if you want to see your flaws, if you want to see your blind spots, I feel like travel is the best way to reveal it because you're getting thrusted into a completely different server. It's like a video game and you have to navigate yourself in that server from an identity that has not been cultivated yet in that server. So it's like you have to grow into a new one. And so I think travel is essentially a mirror. And it's not an escape. I mean, it feels like an escape, especially when you're in your routine, when your job has been stressful, when you have family problems, you just got divorced, when you're just tired. You want a new journey to partake on. You want a new adventure to have. Of course, it feels like an escape. But the real fact about traveling is that it's a mirror. And that's why I think it's important to really throw yourself into the void when you travel because there's different types of it. There's going to all-inclusive resorts in Jamaica, which is fine. But then there's also attending a wedding that you've been invited to by an acquaintance in India, and now you have to navigate the different cultures, the religion, the gods, the way of eating, the way that people view you in that country. Like, there's so many things. And you also see what you have to work on. You know, if you have problems with your love life, when you see couples holding hands or getting married in these different places, you know, you're going to feel a sense of, like, maybe not animosity, but it's going to be a sense of, like, sadness in yourself because you don't have that. But that's a reflection. That's something that you have to work on. That's something that you have to navigate. And that's why traveling is the ultimate mirror.